A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens is a novella set in 19th century Victorian England. The book condemns the class disparities and inequalities of the era through the lens of one man's redemption. The story demonstrates how the upper class's oppression of the poor has dire consequences for the whole of English society. The protagonist, Ebenezer Scrooge, is a miserly, cold-hearted creditor who is visited by 4 ghosts. In an attempt to persuade him to change his stingy and greedy ways, the apparitions show Scrooge disturbing visions of the past, present, and undetermined future. The story opens on Christmas Eve. Scrooge rejects a Christmas dinner invitation and well wishes from his kind and cheerful nephew, Fred. Scrooge also dismisses charity workers seeking alms for the poor and tells his humble clerk, Bob Cratchit, that he must work on Christmas Day. Later that evening, Scrooge is visited by the ghost of Jacob Marley, his former business partner who has been dead for 7 years. Marley has been wandering since his death as punishment for his stinginess in life and neglect for the well-being of others. Now, Marley warns Scrooge to save himself from the same fate. Before disappearing, Marley tells Scrooge he will be visited by 3 spirits. Later, Scrooge falls asleep only to awaken disoriented. The ghost of Christmas past, a small figure, appears to him, showing him scenes from Scrooge's youth. Scrooge sees himself as a lonely and innocent child who is ignored by other schoolchildren. He is saddened to see both the kindness of his younger sister, Fan, who would eventually die after giving birth to his nephew Fred, and the cruelty of his father. Scrooge then sees himself as a young man in the prime of his life. His girlfriend, Belle, is breaking off their romance after realizing that Scrooge pursues only money. Seeing this vision of himself, Scrooge is overwhelmed with emotion and begs the ghost to take him back to the present. Scrooge falls asleep, but wakes up again. The ghost of Christmas present appears as a giant with a lifespan of only 1 day. He transforms Scrooge's room into a decorative feast, then shows him several current scenes of Christmas joy and charity, including the Cratchit household. The ghost informs Scrooge that Cratchit's crippled and good-hearted son, Tiny Tim, will die young. He also shows Scrooge the merry party at Fred's house. Finally, a ragged boy and girl crawl out from the ghost's robe. The ghost calls them ignorance and want, and then warns Scrooge to beware of ignorance. Suddenly, the silent, black-clad ghost of Christmas yet to come replaces the ghost of Christmas present. He shows Scrooge several scenes of people who casually and jokingly discuss someone's death. No one seems saddened by the passing of this mysterious man. Next, the ghost shows Scrooge several people divvying up some possessions they have plundered from a man who has died recently. Scrooge is suddenly at the plundered bed of the corpse. He cannot bring himself to raise the veil of the dead man and see his own face. Instead, Scrooge asks the ghost to show him someone who feels grief for the man's death. The ghost transports Scrooge to the house of a young couple. They are rejoicing since their merciless creditor has died, releasing them from the ruin of debt. Then, in the Cratchit home, Bob mourns for Tiny Tim, who has recently died as well. Finally, to Scrooge's horror, he discovers it is his own death that has made so many people happy rather than sad. He desperately hopes that these scenes of the future can be changed. He vows to live by the lessons of the past, present, and future. The ghost shrinks and collapses into a bedpost. Finally, Scrooge wakes up in his bedroom and joyfully repeats his vow. He runs around his house and then outside, where church bells ring. He learns that it is now Christmas Day. He is friendly to everyone he sees. He sends a large prize turkey to the Cratchit's house, gives a sizable donation to the charity worker he previously insulted, and then has a wonderful time at Fred's party. The next day, he gives Bob Cratchit a raise. He continues his kindly ways after Christmas, befriending everyone and becoming a second father to Tiny Tim, who does not die after all. Scrooge, changed forever, continues to keep the spirit of Christmas alive in his heart.